What's up, folks? David Soto Jr. here, and this is the David Soto Jr. podcast. What's up, folks? David Soto Jr. here. Welcome to episode 2 of the David Soto Jr. podcast. I am coming to you from Boulder, Colorado, and it's cold, man. It's cold. The snow's still on the ground, but it's still a beautiful day. Gorgeous, no clouds. Sun is shining, so everything's a little tolerable. I found a nice park that I used to, during the summer. I've been here in the summer, and I used to hang out here and just chill out, read in the back. I've done some writing here, and it's weird to come to be here in the winter and take a look out at the park, and there's nothing out there. Although a family did just pull up. Other than that, this parking lot is empty. The park is empty, and it's off the road, so you don't hear any cars. So I figured this is a pretty good spot to try and record the podcast. Two things I want to talk about today, and they're things that have crossed my mind lately. One of them is, there's been a phrase that's come to mind. Well, first, let me talk about this. I go to meetings, and because I feel I'm an addict when it comes to food. I'm an overeater. And so I attend meetings, and I can't talk about these meetings very much because it's part of the rules. I can't even say what meetings they are, or who I am associated with when I attend these meetings. But one thing that I notice is that there are some sad people in these meetings, and when they share, they are in pain. And sometimes I look and I think, man, I'm not this bad. I'm not as bad as these people are. They're worse off than I am. And it's kind of humbling to some degree. It makes me grateful that I am not as bad off as they are. But then I think maybe I am. Maybe I'm just like them. And I don't tell sad stories that make me cry during my sharing. But it is I hurt just as much as they do, or I'm hurting just as much as they are. It made me realize, it made me think, and this is the topic, the thing that I want to say, it's my new little mantra, is that everyone is hurting. And attending these meetings and seeing all these people, and then knowing that other people are addicted to other things, it makes me wonder if everybody is addicted to something. I've been thinking about this heavily. I've been thinking about food and addiction and weight loss and overeating, and the reason people are overweight is because they're overeating. The reason they are overeating is because it makes them feel better, temporarily, of course, just the same as any drug does, whether it's weed or heroin, opiates, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex. People are even addicted to exercise. It's an adrenaline rush. It is not adrenaline rush, but a chemical release, right? It causes a chemical release and releases endorphins and causes you to feel better, even if it's temporary. And it made me think that, is everyone addicted? Does everyone have an addiction? Is it just that, drugs are illegal and alcoholism ruins lives, causes, big thing about drinking are a big result of drinking is DUIs and deaths and fees and all the things that come with getting a DUI. I'm sorry, and driving drunk. For us overeaters, what you see with our addiction is we get fat. Um, some of us take it to the extreme to purge, which has its own health risk. But I think that everybody is an addict in some way. And the reason, and if that's true, that means everybody is hurting. Everyone is hurting. Everyone has something that's bothering them. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have, automatically we want to compare what we've all suffered through, right? We want to compare, I don't know why they're suffering. They're not doing, that's nothing compared to what I went through. But it's all relative, right, to the person who's doing the suffering. Whether you're picked on as your kid or your dad died when you were young, there's all kinds of things that all of us have to deal with. Being bullied, for example. I mean, I've been thinking about it more and more as a stutterer, because I guess one of the biggest things is because I'm writing a childhood memoir, I'm taking all these stories of things that happened to me, and good and bad, during the time that I lived with my grandmother. Majority of those stories, or majority of the stories I'm writing, take place during those 4 years. And I brought up the fact that I gave a speech at my 6th grade graduation, and the biggest one of the reasons why this was such a big deal is because I was a stutterer, and I didn't stutter during that speech, and I didn't realize that I didn't stutter until my father made a comment, sort of bragging about me, how I gave that speech flawlessly. So is dealing with that, or dealing with my parents' divorce, or dealing with the fact that I lived in a small home in South Central Los Angeles, isolated for 4 years, that's all shit I have to deal with. Does it compare to anybody else's? It doesn't matter. It's not supposed. I'm not comparing it. For a long time, I thought things were worse. Refugee from Vietnam, or and more recently from Iraq, or the things that people have seen living in war-torn countries, or living in Mexico, or any other third world country. But it doesn't matter. What affects me affects me, and what affects you affects you. We all are suffering, and the difference is, like, even if you see somebody happy, somebody has a great life, they are suffering. They have something that they were suffering from. They have something that hurts. The difference is between us, between the really, really sad people who cry during meetings, or between the people who are completely happy and live their life. The difference between them and us, or them and the sad people, is how they're responding to what has happened in their past. Some people choose not to get over what happened to them. And I think they can take it to their grave. I know of somebody who is dying, who's a bitter and angry person and is dying, and they lost somebody a long time ago. I don't think they ever got over that, and they're not going to get over it, and their body is withering away. This person is young, is barely older than me, and honestly could die at any moment. And that's because she's not getting over the loss that she had. And I was trying not to use pronouns, but I used one. She's not getting over the loss that she had that happened years ago. And then there's people who are thriving, enjoying life, having a great time, raising a beautiful family, enjoying their career. They have events too, but they're choosing to get over it. They're dealing with it better. I wrote an article entitled How to Get Over a Loss, something to that effect. And the answer I wrote was to deal with it. Like, the pain doesn't go away. Everyone is hurting. The difference is how we choose to deal with it, if we choose to deal with it and get over it. Another part of this is that I've started walking around and saying to myself, everyone is hurting, everyone is hurting. I just started doing this the other day, literally walking through a store, and because I'm always on edge thinking that somebody is maybe out to get me or plotting or going to do something wrong, I'm always ready to engage with them in some type of a fight if need be, or I'm ready to jump down their throat. And the other day when I was walking around, I'm saying to myself, everyone is hurting, everyone is hurting. And the way I responded to people and looked at people was completely different. And it just happened today where I had my climbing shoes and chalk bag at the rock climbing gym set on a table on top of a magazine that was left there. Now I was sitting there for a while working on putting a little Instagram post together. And I probably had been there 20, 30 minutes, and I got up to do something. When I came back, a man had sat there, and he swiped my chalk bag and climbing shoes off the table and onto the floor. Turns out he was reading that magazine, but he would go and climb for a little while, then come back down and sit down, and it was open to the page that he wanted to read it on. And I stood there. He didn't know they were mine. And I stood there, and I bent down, and I grabbed my gear, and I looked right at him, ready to confront him, ready to talk shit to him. And the words came to mind, everyone is hurting. And I thought to myself, this guy's being an asshole for a reason. And I really wanted to confront him, and I could tell that he was nervous that the person whose shoes and chalk bag he had just dismissed and swiped to the floor was not only standing there, but was a fucking giant. But I walked away. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that had the words, everyone is hurting, come to mind just then. So that's my new mantra. That's how I'm going to go through life, understanding that everyone is hurting. And if someone's being a dick, it's because they have something that they're dealing with, or maybe not dealing with deep inside. The other thing I want to talk about is something that just came to me, and that is nobody gives a shit about you. That sounds kind of harsh, right? Nobody gives a shit about you. So yeah, there's going to be exceptions, of course. There's your mom and your grandma and your siblings maybe. But I'm really talking about social media and how we're all out there trying to earn likes. And the thing is that nobody really fucking cares. Now, somebody the famous internet marketer has said this a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, nobody cares, nobody gives a shit. But I didn't get it. I didn't get it until just the other day when I'm scrolling through my Twitter and I'm posting witty tweets and deep thoughts, and nobody's responding to them. I'm like, man, this is funny, man. Why didn't somebody like this? Just give it a like, for fuck's sake. And then I check my book sales and nobody's buying my book, and I'm kind of feeling sorry for myself, and the words "nobody gives a shit" comes to mind. And I think, yeah, nobody gives a shit. But then I don't know what I was doing. Maybe in the shower where a lot of thoughts come to me. But when you think about the words "nobody gives a shit about you," I kind of rearranged that to the words that to the thought that everybody is in it for themselves. And this is not a bad thing, right? Because I personally, a friend or somebody I know or somebody, an internet person, an internet friend, right, will post an article that they wrote, and I will just scroll through it. I won't even look. I don't want to read that article. And I get upset for people doing the same thing to me, but then I go ahead and do it. And then I realize, like what's in it for me? Why should I read this article? I'm not interested. It's not about me. Everybody is concerned and focused on themselves. And so from a marketing perspective, an internet marketing perspective, when you want people to give a shit about you, the way to do this is to provide them with something that benefits them. All right? What's in it for me? This is what everyone is thinking. Consciously or not, maybe subconsciously they're doing it, but they're not going to like your Instagram post unless it does something for them, unless it provides them something. Entertainment can be one. Hey, you made them laugh. It's funny. Like. Or it's beautiful. It's a piece of art. It's a great picture. Like. Or you're providing them with some content or some knowledge that benefits them. And this is not a bad thing when you think about it. Nobody gives a shit about me. That's a whole negative. That's a really negative way to think about it. But think about it yourself. When you're scrolling through social media, when you're scrolling through podcasts, you are thinking, what is in it for me? Am I going to be taken away for a temporary amount of time, entertained? Um, am I going to learn a new recipe? Am I going to lose weight? Which is a lot of bad content out there on weight loss, but you do it too. And you may think that you're a nice person, and you probably are a nice person, but the majority of the things that you interact with online are because they benefit you in some way, shape, or form, right? Um, and if you're out there liking things just to be nice, right? Just to interact with people, so you can build your following, you're being fake, and that's going to come out eventually. In the end, it's going to come out. Um, so it's just honest. It's just honesty. It's just the truth. That's what's happening out there. And I look, and so what this does to me is it make me realize that people aren't liking my content. People aren't reading my book. Uh, it's because I'm not providing them with something that they want. And if I want to do better, as far as getting a following and building my tribe, I have to put something out there that people want. And the truth is, is that it's just truth. Um, I can only be me. We can only be us. We do anything else, we're fake. And it, being fake cannot last. It does not last. In the end, the truth will always come out. So what I have to do is I will continue to be myself, and I will try to provide social media content that is what people want. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to change how I am, but I will change how I present it. Um, so I'm not going to just say, hey, read my book, it's awesome. I'm going to have to make it maybe and I do this, and it does it. I think it's all right. I put graphics with reviews of the book, or I put lines from the book, or I post pieces of what I've written as I write them, and I take screenshots and I post them on Instagram, and people respond to that. Not many, but people do. And one of the things I have to realize is I have to be patient, because I am building a following. People are following me. People do like my stuff, but it's just not happening at a rate at which I would like. I got to continue to be myself, and I got to continue to put content out there, and I have to be patient about it. But I can make how I present it different, more appealing to people. Give the people what they want, because they're not in it for me. They're in it for themselves. Anyways, this is not, as I said before in my first podcast, I'm not an expert. I gotta be honest, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is all just me working things out on my own. And over the past couple of days, these two topics have really impacted me and made me see things clearly. All right? Everybody's hurting. So remember that when you're walking around and think somebody's being a dick. Remember that everyone's hurting. For me, empathy is a big thing lacking. I lack empathy, and I really find that saying to myself that everyone is hurting really reminds me to be more empathetic. Nobody gives a shit about you reminds me that if I put something out and nobody likes it, it's because it's not what they want, because it doesn't do anything for them. The market decides. And so I'll continue to be truthful. I'll continue to be myself. But how I deliver it may change up a bit. And it may require me to, I either have to A, be patient, or I have to change up my presentation. Maybe I'll do a little bit of both. But that's it, folks. That's it for the David Soto Jr. podcast. I am out. I'm out of words. This is all I got. So I appreciate you tuning in. I'm supposed to have a call to action at the end of these things. So I guess go to davidsotorights.com. Check out some of the things I have been working on. I have books with links to some of my nonfiction work, which I wrote way before I started writing fiction. My heart is in these magical realism stories. I've also posted blog posts there of things that I don't really intend on publishing, but I think I want to share, and I put my heart and soul into. And so you can find those there. My website is davidsotorights.com, www.davidsotorights.com. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you next time.